I am joined by Senator Kevin Cramer, a member of the Armed Services and Budget Committee. Senator, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time on this Sunday evening. We really appreciate it. Kicking things off, I wanted to talk with you about something rather striking, what we're seeing, this withdrawal of troops in Afghanistan. It's something the president had talked about for a long time, but something else that's very much worth talking about, something you're intimately involved in, is the National Defense Authorization Act of 2021. Now, we have a couple of bullet points that kind of highlight some of the things that are expected to be in this ultimate act. $740 billion in total top-line funding for national defense. But the one I want to highlight is that it doesn't fund a reduction of troops in Afghanistan until the Pentagon drawdown assessment. Your thoughts on the troop withdrawal and also what we're seeing here in the most recent version here, the National DAA?
Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity, Molly. And you're right, there's a lot packed in. And of course, anytime you do a bill as big as the National Defense Authorization Act, there are lots of things that aren't in it. And sometimes that's as important to some people as the things that are in it. But with regard to the troop drawdown, nobody should be surprised by it. I mean, didn't just happen overnight. This is something President Trump ran on. It's something he won on. It's something that I think it certainly has happened slower than he wanted it to. But oftentimes that reality hits people when they get into the Oval Office and they see the state of play on the ground. But, you know, we started this most recent drawdown earlier this year after the deal with the Taliban was struck. You know, some people feel like maybe it's too much, too fast. Some people think it's, you know, it's long overdue. But remember that even with this—
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts are I think the president's doing it about right. I don't think we can completely abandon, you know, the Middle East. And remember, we're drawing down in Iraq as well, Somalia as well, in Africa. So I think we have to do it the right way. We're always going to play a lead role. The problem is it's not just the United States. It's NATO, the NATO nations that don't have quite the number of troops we have, but we provide all of the leadership for. So it's appropriate to continue the assessment, do it at a pace that doesn't jeopardize peace in the Middle East, or worse, jeopardize security here at home. And to the degree that it was part of the strategy was to keep the fight with the terrorists over there, it certainly has worked. And
you brought up NATO, our allies. They've expressed concerns about the troop drawdown, about timelines out throughout the process, but right now as well. What do you say to those allies, NATO, that see concerns right now as our troops are being pulled home? Or to Germany?
Yeah, well, for sure. So they probably need to have a sobering moment, obviously, as they assess whether or not they step into the leadership role or whether they follow us out. And I think the General Secretary Stoltenberg has said he doesn't know which of those two things is going to happen. I think he's hinted that it's likely that a number of the NATO countries are probably going to follow the United States out of the country. But remember, even at the current rate, for now, we're going to keep 2,500 troops there, which is still more than any other country. In fact, I think it would end up being about 40% of what's left in Afghanistan specifically. So it's not like we're completely abandoning the place. When I think it was February, when the deal was struck with the Taliban, we had 12,000 troops. And so again, this isn't something that just happened since the election or in the waning days. I think it's about appropriate, but what I don't want to do, Molly, what I don't want to do is completely leave the region, leave Africa, leave these giant voids, because our near-peer adversaries, particularly China, is happy to step into voids in places like China, and then the cost of fighting your way back in is way higher than maintaining our troop base there.
I want to shift gears back here to home. COVID, of course, and Congress has had tremendous challenges getting more COVID relief out to the folks that need it. Here we are on the cusp of the holidays, but it seems like there's a little hope coming out of Washington. So I wanted to get your insight on that. Are we close to seeing COVID related relief to, some of the benefit programs are going to be running out soon, various unemployment deadlines, that sort of thing. Your thoughts?
Well, I think much like the National Defense Authorization Act, this COVID package that has been put together, at least the framework has been put together by a bipartisan membership, it has great hope. It's bicameral, it's bipartisan. We have the relief valve that went off on Election Day. I think that we all feel a little more comfortable. But I've always said, Molly, that the number that we'd settle on would not be 2.8 billion or $3.4 billion, but probably closer to or $1 trillion rather, but rather closer to 1 trillion or a little less. I think 908 billion that they've come up with is the right number. There's going to be something, just like anything that's built on compromise. There are going to be things that, let's say not everybody's going to get everything that they want, but everything will get something.
Well, the question is, who gets the money across America? When we're talking about average Americans and parts of the economic sector, where does the money go?
Well, I think you played the clip with Senator Cassidy saying this is not a stimulus bill, this is a relief bill. I think that's a good illustration of it, because what there's not a lot of money just being thrown at things. There are real targets, paycheck protection forgiveness, and then a new paycheck protection program that's aimed at small business, providing relief without having to use a lot of new money. I think it's important to know that about $600 billion of the $900 billion we're talking about is already appropriated dollars. You're also, probably the thing that's most offensive to Republicans, conservatives like me, is $160 billion for states and local communities. They're struggling with this, but a lot of it's going to go to the vaccines, to the treatments, to our frontline workers.
I know a lot of people are interested in that one. Senator, we're running out of time. I want to thank you so very much for offering your insights. We really appreciate it. Senator Kevin Cramer, thank you very much.
Thanks, Molly.